Good morning, girls. So we'll do a double class today, and we'll choose a topic that's, in Hebrew you would say Shabbal L'chol Nefesh, which means it's universal in terms of its relevance, in terms of its applicability. So we'll talk about the world of kashrus and certification agencies and kosher standards, how we navigate the world of hechsherim from the eyes of a chassid. So there's a lot to talk about. I don't know if I'll be able to cover everything within the time frame, but we'll do our best. To begin with, I want to share some terminology that's often used as it relates to this topic. It's a terminology where a question is asked, is this hechsher reliable? It's a common question. So the answer could be yes or no. If a hechsher is reliable, it does not necessarily mean that the standard of that hechsher is our standard. So the word standard and reliability mean very different things. Reliability means that whatever they say they do, they do. I can trust that they're doing it. What they're actually certifying may not be suitable for me. For example, a hechsher may be certifying something that's not chol of Yisro or not pas Yisro. It may be a reliable hashgacha, but it's not my standard. There are other examples of standard as well, which comes into play often in out-of-town local vadim situations where they have, because in an effort, I suppose, to provide kosher food for the masses, they're more lenient about what would be considered acceptable policies. So they'll certify a food service establishment, such as a pizza shop, a falafel place, or even a sushi place, whatever it is, without a frum yid present all the time. They'll have a frum yid coming in 4 times a day. That's a different standard. Now, it could be a reliable hashgacha in the sense that whatever they say that they're doing, but their standard does not meet the standard we consider to be acceptable. So the word standard refers to a benchmark, a barometer of what suits us and what does not suit us. So if it's not our standard, it's not true. It doesn't mean the hashgacha is worthless. It means it doesn't meet what we're looking for. And today we have a plethora of hechsherim. There's 1,400, 1,500 hechsherim. I don't even know how many. There are about 4 or 5 very large international hashgachas, certification agencies, and then you have a certain amount of regional agencies, then you have private hashgachas. And in the private hashgacha realm, you also have chassidish hechsherim, and you have non-chassidish hechsherim. I'll explain what that means. Chassidish hechsherim refer to a hechsher, at least when it comes to a good chassidish hechsher, it refers to a hechsher that would not certify something that's not chol of Yisro and not pas Yisro. As a policy, they're only going to certify chol of Yisro, pas Yisro products. The national hechsherim, including the OK, the OU, the Chavki, the Starkey products that are not Chol Yisrael. They'll do both. And if they're Pas Yisrael or Chol Yisrael, they'll indicate so on the label. But a Chassidish hechsher, as a policy, would never certify something that's not Chol Yisrael and not Pas Yisrael. As a policy, they wouldn't touch that. Now, the way Chassidish hechsherim are structured is very differently than the way a national hashgacha is structured. A Chassidish hechsher relies upon a national hashgacha for many things. If they have to research on ingredients, if they need to find out about the complexity of a particular ingredient, they're in touch with a recognizable and a reliable hashgacha. They often do products that they certify with hashgacha tamidis, with the rabbi present all the time. They don't have an elaborate computer system the way a national hashgacha has. But they do have a different system of how they certify products. So with regards to Hasidic Hechsherim, there are some polarities. They're either very good or not so good. There's not that much in the middle. Because for a Hasidic Hechsher to be good, they have to have do products in a responsible manner, Ashkachat Tamidis, whatever, or follow up and have a proper system in place. If they don't have that, they don't have a system. If there's no system, you can't really give a proper hashkacha. Because to give hashkadim, you need to have a system because the world is very complex. The world of manufacturing is increasingly complex. You need to have a system where you can track all the products, the ingredients, the systemization, the reports, the visits, and everything. That has to all be done in a proper systemized manner. Some Hasidic Hechsherim are, the rabbis are very well-meaning, but they're not sufficiently aware of what goes on in the food industry. So as a result of that, food in their house, because they're religious people, but they're just not equipped. So it's kind of similar to someone who decides to become a medical doctor, but didn't go through training, didn't go through all the requisite training, and they don't really know how to perform the operation. They don't know how to perform that diagnosis or to do whatever it is. So they're well-meaning, but they're not equipped. I've had situations where I've gotten inquiries from a Hasidic Hechsher, which was not that reliable. A rabbi asked me a question about the food industry, about a particular product. He wanted to do something. He had no idea how the industry worked. So I said to him, I had to answer him, basically accordingly, but he obviously didn't know anything about the industry. And if you don't know anything about the industry, you're not able to go in and start certifying products. You first have to know the industry and then you can start certifying products. Now, in the realm of national Hechsherim itself, which when I mean by saying that is, for example, the OK, the OU, the Starkey, the Chavke, etc., CRC, there are some slight variations also. Even though all those agencies are reliable agencies, there are some slight variations which we need to know about. And in order to do so, I need to give you the following hakdama, the following preface. We as Hasidim, as you know, are very, very careful on keeping Chol of Yisrael. There's a famous story from the Alter Rebbe. There was a chas of the Alter Rebbe whose son-in-law developed Sfeikis and Amunah. He had doubt and trust in Hashem. Frierdiker Rebbe writes the story in Sefer Maimon Petresi. And so his father-in-law was very worried about his son-in-law's state of religious affairs. And he came to the Alter Rebbe. And Alter Rebbe said, your son-in-law was nichshol, he stumbled and he drank chol akum below yoidim. He, unbeknownst to him, he drank chol akum, and that is the reason why he's having doubt and trust in Hashem. That's what gave rise to these unwanted thoughts and foreign ideas. Then the Rebbe had to give him a tikkun. So keeping chol of Yisrael is a very precious thing in Adas HaChasidim, by Chasidim. It directly correlates to our spiritual state of affairs. So it's very, very precious. I'm saying this because I want to help impress upon all of you where we as Hasidim stand on the matter. Other people that are religious, well-meaning people, they don't have the same approach to Chol Yisrael that Hasidim have. And as a result of that, they rely upon leniencies with regards to Chol Yisrael that we as Hasidim would not rely upon. Now, to explain the matter further, for those of you that are in my class, we'll learn about this at length in a few months, but Rav Moshe Feinstein gave a heter for non-Chol Yisrael in America because there's a certain amount of government oversight with regards to the farms to ensure that they're not mixing in milk from a non-kosher animal into the mix. In a case where someone's in a case of need, where they have no ability to get Chol Yisrael. Almost all of Rav Moshe Feinstein's contemporary rabbis, they disagreed with him on this ruling. But nonetheless, he did say it. So all the national Hechsherim certify non-Chol Yisrael product based on that ruling of Rav Moshe. Now, non-Hasidic communities, they consider Chol Yisrael as a chumrah, as an added stringency. They don't consider it to be something that's a must. It's a stringency. and they look at the absorption from non-Chol Yisrael products. Go to a local VAD, they'll say, our pizza is Chol Yisrael, our knishes are not Chol Yisrael, because they cannot get Chol Yisrael knishes, for whatever the reason. I'm not getting into distribution issues, whatever. So now they have a situation where they're baking the pizza, which is Chol Yisrael, in the same oven at the same time as the knish, which is not Chol Yisrael. So from the way they learn, the non-Hasidic community considers that, well, that's permissible, because the absorption is a permissible absorption. Chol Yisrael is just a chumrah, and therefore we can say that we're serving Chol Yisrael, not Chol Yisrael, in the same oven. Chasidim would never allow such a thing. We would consider that to be the pizza to be not Chol Yisrael. When you eat first Chol Yisrael, we consider it to be all non-Chol Yisrael. We wouldn't eat there. It's a problem because the way in which they use non-Chol Yisrael is different than the way Hasidim view non-Chol Yisrael. And as a result of that, they'll have a different approach. And as a result of that, when you go to their certified establishments, very often what they're certifying will not meet the standard that we're looking for. Is that clear? It doesn't make those agencies not reliable, because if you ask them point blank, how do you view non-Chol Yisrael? Do you allow non-Chol Yisrael and Chol Yisrael together? They'll tell you, yes, we do. They're not going to lie to you. But again, their approach to non-Chol Yisrael and our approach is not the same. And that's where a problem develops. And therefore, as Hasidim, we have to increase our awareness. Don't worry, we're not going to go hungry. Baruch Hashem, there's plenty of kosher food around in a Mohadedik way. But like a famous Lubavitcher Chassid told me, he says, in the olden days, if you look and read the stories from the Hasidim of Russia 2 generations ago, they had Mesiras Nefesh Mamish. They gave away their lives to feed us. Today we have our Mesiras Nefesh is that we drive an old car, or we can't eat in a certain restaurant. We have to just... we have to be a little bit more in check. Put it in perspective, it's not so terrible. Okay, that's just another point I want to bring out. A third point I want to bring out is that in general, when it comes to food shopping, which I'm sure you do it sometimes, it's wise and it's useful to get a general idea of how products are made. Obviously, you're not in the industry. If you're not going to do it for a living, you're not going to know all the details, but a general idea of how things are made or what level of complexity various products are is useful in terms of making choices when it comes to shopping. Can I trouble somebody for a cup of water, please? Thank you. Anyway, so if you're going shopping and you're looking at products, some products are of a very simple nature. And as a result of that, they need a hechsher, but if they have a basic hashkacha, it's fine. There's nothing to be concerned about. Some products are more complex in nature. They're more involved to make. And as a result of that, you may want to have something with a better hashkacha. And just to have an idea. Thank you. So for example, I'm going to give you some examples of simple products. Pasta, dried fruit, coffee, yeah, even tea, even flavored tea. It needs hashkacha flavored tea, but it's not so complex. By the way, I did find on once or twice flavored tea that was dairy because the flavor was dairy. It's very unusual. I don't like it, but just check the label. But it's pretty straightforward other than that. Dried fruits are pretty straightforward. Even processed nuts, they need hashkacha. If you have, for example, dry roasted nuts or wet roasted nuts, but it's pretty straightforward. They're not usually using the roaster for multiple status products. If the roaster is kosher, it's going to stay kosher par. That's what it's going to do. You don't switch back and forth on a routine basis. Things like breakfast cereal, dry breakfast cereals, which America lives on, like Cheerios and cornflakes and Rice Krispies and whatnot. Manufacturers can things that are going to cure all the world's illnesses, and it's wonderful for you. And it's, well, it's another discussion. If you're not having oatmeal in the morning, you can have dried cereal. Dried cereal is kind of like it's like an average product. Usually it's made on dedicated kelim also, dedicated equipment for kosher. It's not being made switch back and forth. It needs a reliable hashgacha, but again, it does not usually involve koshering. It's a dedicated system because think about the amount of dried cereal that the American market consumes. It's tremendous. So these machines that are manufacturing these products are just running 24 hours a day, just keep churning out these products. It's a staple in many American homes. There are other products which we don't consume on a daily basis. For example, barbecue sauce. You're going to have barbecue chicken once a month or once every week, the schnitzel, whatever. You don't eat it every day. It's a flavorful product, and it's like almost like, I want to say a special occasion, but it's a flavor profile. So sauces, generally speaking, sauce and toppings are something you don't usually use every day. Those are typically, and they're hot processed, by the way, what we call a hot fill. And those are something that are used for many things. They can use them. They can make treifa products in the same equipment. Obviously, when giving hashgacha, we kasher the kelim before we certify that product. But I'm just pointing out that kind of a product is a little bit more complex in nature. First of all, ingredient-wise, there's a lot of ingredients in it, and also it's a hot processed product than kasher kelim, so therefore it's a little bit more complex. And there, it's a little bit better, if possible, if you're in a place where you can be more prudent and more this product of that nature. Obviously, when it comes to products such as wine, meat, and fish, we need to have a very good hashgacha. Let me explain about that a little bit more. When it comes to fish, Shulchan Aruch says that if the fish is skinned, how do we know if fish is kosher? It has fins or scales. Fins and scales. So if you see two scales on a fish, and you pull it off the skin, then you know it's a kosher fish. If you have fish that's been skinned, so it's a skinless fillet, you don't really know what kind of fish it was. So you lost its identifying mark. What I'm going to share with you is public information, so I can say it publicly. The OU has a policy with regards to fish. It's a leniency, which we do not accept. That fish that's produced in an all-kosher factory, processed in an all-kosher factory, you don't produce the fish. I mean, of course, it comes from a fish farm or it's going to be wild caught. But fish that's produced in an all-kosher producing factory, they do not have a mashgiach tamidi. They don't require it. Unless it's for Pesach. For Pesach, they'll require for Pesach. But ordinarily, they don't require mashgiach tamidi. So they'll take, for example, fish fillets, they'll get them in, and they'll just run that without any mashgiach present. And that's not something you would accept. Shulchan Aruch says that it has to visually see that it's a kosher fish and inspect. So all the Chiddushei Achshem will not accept such product, and the OK also does not accept such product from the OU. Some agencies accept OU products. For example, plain OU tuna fish, that's not OUP, is made this way. It's made in a plant that only handles kosher fish, and they have no mashgiach tamidi, and that's why we don't accept plain OU bumblebee tuna fish or Starkist tuna fish. It's for this very reason. Now, other agencies, for example, the Kafke told me that they wouldn't certify a product like this, but they will accept OU tuna fish in the restaurants to use. So if you're going to a Chavke restaurant, the tuna fish could be OU tuna fish, and you have that problem again. Doesn't make the Chavke not reliable. They're a reliable hashgacha, but they have this leniency, which we don't accept. You have to be educated. So you can go there, maybe you can have a tuna steak with the skin on. You can have other products, as long as you know that's hashgacha to me, this type of fish. You have to ask some questions, and you have to do a little bit of inquiry, investigation. The OK does not accept this leniency, neither do Chassidus Shechedim. The only fish that we're lenient about is the salmon species fish, because the color red serves as a siman kashrus. So we will allow skinless salmon to be processed without hashgacha tamidis because the pink color is the only fish we allow. We don't allow roe, which is the fish egg of salmon, without hashgacha tamidis because we found that's commercially viable to actually dye the fish eggs, that is, the roe. And as a result of that, the color red cannot be considered a simon. It's not commercially viable from what we've seen to dye the actual flesh of fish, a fillet of fish, what have you. They could clone a fish today. They could take a white fish and make it pink. But it's not commercially viable to do so. We're not seeing that happening on the market. They do take existing pink color and they enhance the color with the fish feed and all that, but we're not seeing them actually clone the fish, and therefore it's considered to be an acceptable heter. We rely upon it. Some hechsherim, the Chassidish hechsherim, do not rely upon this heter. And interestingly enough, I believe the Starkey does not rely on it either. Although they have other leniencies, but this particular part is they're machmiran. Most locks that you see sold in the market today is based on this leniency. Whereas in this area, you'll find some with the Chassidish hechsher will do stuff with that's done with the hashgacha tamidis. Now I want to talk a little bit about standards. As Chassidim, we need to establish standards for our homes, for our families. And this is my favorite subject, so you'll excuse me if I'm smiling. But it's when you talk about standards, you also get into the field of education. Because when we have a family and we want to establish standards, it relates to how we educate our children as well, right? What we do in our home. It's very, very important that the standards that we keep, that we hold dear to us, are conveyed in a loving manner to our children, to our family, so that they're going to want to adopt these standards and live by them. If the standards are going to be forced upon them with negativity, it's not going to stick. They're going to throw it off as soon as they can. So it has to be done with pride. When it's done with pride, proud, this is what we do. This is special to us. This is dear to us. This is meaningful to us with the children. I'll share a story with you. There was a time, the story happened about 15 years ago. Maybe more, actually. It happened, I think it was about 15 years ago. That Kellogg's cereal, the breakfast cereal, the ones made in America did not have a very good hashgacha. It had a mediocre hashgacha, but we weren't comfortable with some of the things that they were doing. There were some questions about milchiks, and there was stuff that we weren't happy with. We were not happy with what they were doing. So as a result of that, we did not eat the Kellogg's cereals in our home. It had a hechsher, but the standard was not what we were comfortable with. One of my children went off to overnight camp in Montreal, Canada. And on visiting day, I went to visit the kid. The kid's far away in Montreal, a young kid, I don't remember, 9 or 10. And I said to him, what can I bring you? In terms of, parents have to feel like they're taking care of their kid, bringing them a goodie bag or whatever, care package. It says breakfast cereals. So I bought him a whole bunch of breakfast cereals. I bought 8 boxes or something, enough to last him for the whole summer, maybe whatever, and to give to his friends. It's a little bit of a other nosh, but it struck me a little bit odd that that's what he was asking for. Because I know I was in camp, they served breakfast cereal in camp. And he wasn't the type of kid that wanted the super sugar crystal. He wanted the regular run-of-the-mill stuff. Anyway, I come to visiting day. This is 2 weeks into camp. And I bring him the care package. And I say to my kid, I said, tell me, they don't serve breakfast cereal in camp? They always have it. What do they serve you? He says to me, no, they do serve it. I said, so why did you ask me to bring you so much breakfast cereal? He says, because they're serving the Kellogg's breakfast cereal that we don't eat. He started to cry. So I got my composure And I was crying out of nachas. And I got my composure. I said, can you show me a box of what it's like? So he showed me a box. And I showed him that the one in Canada has a different hashkacha because it's manufactured in Canada. I said it has a COR, which is Canadian Orthodox Rabbinate. It's a reliable hashkacha. And this you could eat. The one that in America we don't have. He didn't know that. So for 2 weeks, this poor kid didn't eat the breakfast cereal because it had the brand of the stuff in America that we don't use. He didn't know that in Canada has a different hashkacha, but he wasn't resentful about it. He took it matter of factly. So I thought to myself, thank God we conveyed this message with love because he bought the message, even though he didn't get the full picture, which I had to correct later. But anyway, I still feel bad for those 2 weeks the poor kid didn't eat, but whatever. That's how God meant it to be. But anyway, whatever we do has to be done, conveyed with love and with pride. And then the kids, they will with Hashem's help, will stick with them. It's not that we're depriving the sense of neflinu. We're special. We're chassidim. We do things in a higher measure. We're looking for a better product. This summer, I was shopping for food. I was going on a kashrus trip. So it was about 11 o'clock at night, and I was in a kosher food store. And I had a very remarkable hashgacha pratis incident that happened to me. I want to share with you. I got my food together. I was going away for 2 days. I got all my food, and I've gotten kind of into a routine of I know what to buy. And this random Jew meets me in the store. It's a visitor from Israel. I was in upstate New York. He says, tell me, whatever. He says, yeah, whatever. So he says to me, of all people in the store, he came over to me. He picked up an ice cream that had a national hashgacha, and it was DE dairy equipment, which we don't eat because it's not Chol Yisrael. He didn't know this. He would have stumbled and had he not asked. But Hashem protected him, and he asked, and I educated him. I said, no, this is a little bit enough for us. I showed him which ones we can use. And he says to me, he's going on a long trip. He needs a lot of fuel. So he's like buying, I don't know, kinds of ice cream or treats, whatever, just to keep him awake. But the hashgacha pratis was so striking that I was able to help him at that moment. And then there's also, in everything that we do, there's Hashem is the active partner. We have to do what we have to do in good faith, and then Hashem takes care of the rest, because it's impossible for a human being to oversee everything. Hashem just wants us to put in our effort. And then Hashem, we have the siyata d'shmaya, help from heaven in everything that we do. So really it's about having a basic education, a basic understanding of what Shadim are, which ones are the standards, and how we utilize them. And of course, when it comes to vegetables, and making sure that we check our vegetables properly, what have you, all that stuff, basic education, and then we can run our homes in an appropriate and suitable manner. But that we didn't even take up the whole time. We have 10 more minutes. Any questions?
Yeah, we were saying about the simple products. So, which other products you can add in which one? Honey, what else? And someone told me butter, like many years ago, was telling me that butter cannot be made out of anything but cows, so we can take butter in there. But now they came up with butter with
Okay, so you're asking very good questions. Let me take one at a time. You started with what? You started with coffee. Okay. Plain coffee that's not flavored is acceptable anywhere. But flavored coffee needs a hashgacha always. Okay, so plain coffee is fine. Honey, some agencies say that you can use honey without hashgacha because they could use the same packing equipment that they use for honey. They have to heat it to pack it for other things. In my opinion, you can still use honey without hashgacha. If you see it says on it, we make many products, then I would stay away. But if it's just a plain honey, I don't think you have to worry at this point. And then with regards to butter is an interesting discussion because as we're going to learn in my class about Chalav Yisrael, you're correct. You cannot make butter out of non-kosher milk. Non-kosher milk won't curd. So therefore, if you see butter, that's a identification mark that's from kosher milk. However, today, when they manufacture butter, they add other ingredients to it. They add whey to it. So if it's not pure butter, then you have a problem because the whey could be from non-Chalav Yisrael cheese. It is from non-Chalav Yisrael cheese. In some ways, it can even be not kosher. So that's an issue. If it's 100% straight pure butter, there is room to be lenient in halacha. That people actually used to do it 60 years ago. But today, the reason they're not doing it so much because butter is manufactured with other ingredients added to it. So it's not 100% pure straight butter. But if you know for a fact it's 100% pure straight butter, you live in a place where you can't get certified butter, you could be lenient. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, maybe I could tell you a story then. Can I tell a story? Shkacha, what's a story? It's always good to tell us stories. You know the story about the hard hats? Did I tell you the story about the hard hats? 3 years ago, I was in a factory that produces 24 hours a day. A lot of factories produce all the time. So all reliable hashkachas require that a mashgiach could walk into the factory any time that they're operating. There's no such thing as we can't come in. That is a prerequisite of giving the hashkacha. For giving the hashkacha, we can come in anytime we want. There has to be that element of fear that we can come in. We're monitoring. Even if we're only coming in, let's say, once a month or once a week, but we can come in anytime. It's very important. This was a factory that produced kosher, non-kosher, so we come in all the time. We come in like every day when we're doing kosher. And I had my mashgiach visit there at random times. He'd come in at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, 8 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning. I told him part of the instructions was that he had to come in at odd hours also. And they got paid for that. Coming at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's a pay someone a premium for this inconvenience. The factory was bought out but closed. They were open, but only during the daytime when I have my main, production manager and supervisor, etc. So I started explaining to my contact. I said, you realize we can't give certification if our visits are restricted and we can't visit at night. It's a prerequisite to certify you. Oh, it's not a problem, Rabbi. We'll go to another agency. I said, we're not going to accept the product. It's kosher. And then I made sure, through my father-in-law, blessed memory, he made sure that the other agencies also wouldn't certify product on that basis because it lowers the whole standard of kashrus. So I said to the fellow, I said, listen, he says to me, Rabbi, you're making it hard on me. You're making new rules. I said, wait a second. Listen, I'm not making any new rules. I'll prove to you that we've been doing this for years. In fact, I can show you records for 10 years back that the rabbi would visit at 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning. Visits were at any time. He says, Rabbi, prove it to me. So I had my secretary go through all the visits in 10 years. We have records of this and printed out reports. And I sent him the reports and he sent it to his boss. And then he's going to call me for a meeting. He says, Rabbi, okay, you got me. Your rabbi can visit any time you want. Middle of the night, anytime. But I'm going to treat you and the visiting rabbi, which means either me or my mashgiach, as a private contractor, which means you got to come in with the hard hat, the white lab coat, the safety glasses, the steel-toed shoes, it's like the whole gear. I think to myself, I'm not going to argue about this. It costs like $200 to buy this gear. The main thing is I got the kashrus. I won the kashrus battle. So if it's going to cost another $200 to buy the gear, we'll figure it out. Someone will pay for it. I'm not worried about it. I already own steel-toed shoes anyways. And the lab coats, maybe I'll go to the doctor. No, I'm just joking. But I'll figure it out. I'll get it. So I said, where am I going to buy it? He says, you go on Uline. He shows me a website to buy it. I said to the guy, give me 2 weeks. I'll take care of it. The next day, now this happened in the summertime. And I didn't know that I was going to have this reaction from him. A month earlier, I had a visit planned in Albany. The next day, I traveled to Albany. I was north of Albany, a town called Waterloo. And I was in a chemical facility there. And over there, they also wear the hard hats, and you go inside, you got to wear glasses. It's a whole thing to go inside because of the safety. And on his own, the plant manager says to me, Rabbi, we just had a visit from corporate. They come visit us once in 10 years. And 80 people from corporate showed up. I had to buy 80 new hard hats, safety glasses, what have you. I don't know what to do with all this stuff. I got tons of extra stuff. Some of it's not even used. I donated a whole bunch of them to the local high school. So I said to the guy, I said, listen, I don't take stuff from factories as a policy, but if you're giving stuff away, just happens to be that yesterday I was giving it away. I could use it. Sure, Rabbi. All right, on the safety glasses, go look for a moment. The visit to Albany was scheduled a month earlier. Before I even knew I had a problem in this facility in New Jersey, they tell me I need the hard hats. The Abish already figured it out that I'm going to get this from this guy. I was like, whoa. It's unbelievable. The Abish Tafir Tavel, and we just have to do our Veda. Another time I had a story. I was in my office and we had a caterer in Flatbush, a Sardish fellow, from fellow, nice guy, religious guy. And I used to visit him once a month. This is many years ago, like 15 years ago. And I felt, it was the middle, I wasn't due for a visit. I just felt I got to go visit the guy. I just felt I have to visit him. I come and visit him, and I wasn't on schedule. It was just a surprise visit. And he welcomes me in, and I started talking to him about something, and in discussion, I realized he was making a mistake. He was an honest guy. He was not trying to cheat on kashrus, but he was making an honest mistake. I had to correct. And Hashem planted in me the feeling that I have to go visit him. And Hashem gave me the siyata d'shmaya that when I'm talking to him, I can figure out, it's all from Hashem. All from Hashem. We just have to do our way. The same thing is with our kitchens at home. It's all from Hashem. Yeah. Yes, that's a class we give at the end of the year. I give that with a list. I didn't know I'm doing a double class today. If I knew, I could have prepared for that. But unfortunately, I cannot. We don't have enough time for that. How much more time do we have? All 3 minutes. I'll tell you one more story. In the summertime, I was traveling. I travel a lot in the summertime. And my visits are scheduled usually 1 or 2 months in advance. It's a whole routine. So I was visiting a company that had 2 facilities. And I had to travel about 5 hours away from home. And I got to the facility, the last facility at the end of the day. I was very tired. It was like 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and I've driven already 6 hours that day. I come to the facility, and I found a problem. I found an ingredient that doesn't belong there. That they came in with the wrong hashkacha. They made a mistake, and I bought it. And it was not used in production yet. And I asked the company. I asked my representative. I said, "When did this come in?" He says, "It came in a few hours ago." And I saw it was fresh, it just came in. And I was in the company, I saw they had the right stuff in production. And so then I had to take care of the issue and just get different stuff and then follow up. But I said to myself, look at this. The visit was scheduled 2 months ago. And I'm going, the last visit of the day, the Eibishter makes that they should send in the material a few hours before I come. And that's Yad D'Shma, I should find it. It's all from Hashem. We have to do our work earnestly. Hashem just puts us where we need to be. That's what it's about. I'll tell you a humorous story. I'll end off with that. Even though the Tanya says we're supposed to start with things that are humorous in the beginning of our lesson. But I'll say at the end. You know what? Instead of that, I'll tell you a word from the Tanya. It's Yutas Kislev. Almost Yutas Kislev. Tanya starts with a tough, right? And ends Because the Gemara ends with with an aleph. So there's a Chassidish word that says that before we learn Tanya, we think that in Avodas Hashem we're already holding by tough, already holding, we think that we're so full. But after learning Tanya, we realize that we're just holding by aleph. And the word Tanya is also the same Oisiyos, the same letters as Eson, which means the mighty one. So through learning Tanya, we're able to strengthen ourselves. Okay, there's a lot more to say, but this is where it's already 10 o'clock. Have a good Yontiv and a good Shabbos and all the brachos.